me tell you about a friend. It's Craig LeBlanc where the good times never end. Talking Parks and Rec, it's a show you gotta know. Welcome one and all to the Daily Parks and Rec Show. It's the Daily Parks and Rec Show.
You know, you always need to have your why whenever you want to do something. For me, my why was always that if there was even one person who could listen to my show and feel like somebody understood them and not feel alone, that was good enough for me. That was my entire purpose of doing the show, was going through these unique experiences and sharing them with an audience so that hopefully somebody somewhere would get something out of it.
Welcome to the Leadership Series on the Daily Parks and Rec Show, where we spotlight the voices shaping the future of our communities. In this episode, we sit down with Ashika Lal, a dedicated Parks and Recreation professional and podcast host whose journey began as a 17-year-old recreation leader in her hometown. From camp counselor to special events coordinator, from nonprofit recreation to municipal leadership, Ashika has spent nearly 2 decades growing through every level of Parks and Recreation. Now serving as Parks Administrator for San Joaquin County, California, she shares how early opportunities and strong mentors shaped her leadership, the lessons she learned running large-scale community events, and how adaptability and storytelling continue to guide her work. Whether you're a young professional stepping into your first role or a seasoned leader shaping the future, Ashika's story is packed with insights on growth, resilience, and leaving a lasting legacy through Parks and Recreation. Let's dive in.
All right, we are live again. Start of another great week. Mondays is always my favorite day because I get to make more content for the Parks and Rec community. And we have a special guest with us today, and she just told me how to pronounce her name. It's not Ashika. That's the wrong way to say it.
Yes.
How do you pronounce it?
Ashika.
Ashika. Okay, fantastic. And she is a fellow podcaster. And so we get to hear about her story in that. And I don't think it had anything to do with Parks and Rec, but you just got into the podcast world, and of which I am encouraging all people to create content, but especially for Parks and Recreation. So we get to hear about her story in that. But before we do that, our team of talented digital artists that are creating content for this industry have created something for y'all. It's a gift from the Daily Parks and Rec Show to the entire Parks and Rec community. And we thought it would be a great idea to create a promotion that you could play to a classroom of college kids that are in Parks and Rec, maybe part-timers that are working summer camps, and just to kind of plant that seed of what it's like and the value that Parks and Rec brings to the professionals that work in this industry, what it brings to their lives. And so this is something, it's on our YouTube channel, no copyright on it. Y'all can just play it to any young professional that might be considering Parks and Recreation, or maybe you hadn't even thought about it. And so this is a gift from us to y'all. We'll play that first, and then we'll play something for our strategic partners. All right, so here we go.
Every career is a choice, but few careers let you touch lives. Not once in a while, but every single day. Step into a park on a Saturday morning. You'll hear children laughing on the soccer field, families gathering for a picnic, seniors walking the trails, finding health and friendship. And behind every smile, every memory is a Parks and Rec professional. We don't just mow fields, we grow confidence in young athletes. We don't just build playgrounds, we create safe spaces where childhood thrives. We don't just plan events, we design moments that anchor generations. Think of the coach who teaches patience, the director who champions equity, the staff member who sees potential in a child no one else believed in. Every day, Parks and Rec professionals shape character, preserve beauty, and strengthen community. And the path isn't easy. Budgets are tight, resources stretched thin, but the reward, unmatched. Because what you give comes back in legacy, in healthier communities, in lives forever changed. So why dedicate your life to Parks and Recreation? Because here, your work never ends. It lives on, in laughter echoing across playgrounds, in green spaces preserved for the next century, in the young professionals rising to lead tomorrow. This is not just a career, it's a calling, it's a legacy, it's Parks and Recreation. A message from the Parks and Rec community.
All right. So if you would like to help us co-create content like this, like we're having today with our guests, we are now opening up to strategic partners that want to help us create content for the Parks and Rec industry. And shout out to Outdoor Link, our latest addition to the team. We are creating a Smart City in Parks and Rec show for them as an example. And we also created a promotion for those that are interested in helping us to co-create content for this industry. So I'll play that and then we'll come back right back and start our conversation.
At DPRS Media Co., we believe Parks and Recreation isn't just a service, it's the heartbeat of our communities. We exist to honor the people, the vendors, and the leaders shaping the future of Parks and Rec. Our mission is simple: to tell their stories, highlight their careers, and celebrate their essential work. Our vision is bold: to be the trusted hub where leaders, vendors, and communities unite, inspiring innovation, sharing wisdom, and building a stronger, healthier nation. Through over 220 live shows and 6 weekly series, the Leadership Series, Facility Maintenance, Young Professionals Network, Youth Sports Mastery, The Rec Room, and Growing Leaders, plus our industry-leading newsletter, the weekly Parks and Rec Post, we're building a media platform made for the Parks and Rec community. And now, we're inviting strategic partners to co-create this story with us. As a partner, you'll gain 12 hours of annual live exposure with custom shows highlighting your expertise, polished 60-second promos refined for maximum impact, year-round visibility with dozens of replays across our media network, premium features in our newsletter, and amplified social media reach across LinkedIn, X, and Facebook. This is your chance to educate, inspire, and lead while connecting directly with the professionals who build, budget, and buy for their communities. This is DPRS Media Co. Let's build the future of Parks and Rec together.
All right. So remind me one more time. It's Ashika?
Ashika, yeah.
Ashika. Okay. I put a U in there to remind me to say the U.
It's a soft day. Ashika.
Ashika. I got it. Okay. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your kind of upbringing, how you got into Parks and Recreation, and a little bit about what you're doing right now.
Sure. So like many professionals in the industry, I found Parks and Recreation at 17. It was my high school job and I just fell into it and fell in love with it. You know, I grew up in Southern California and I was lucky enough to be hired by the city that I was raised in and born in. And so I had a fantastic experience. You know, I worked for 5 years down there. And then when I moved up to Northern California, I got into nonprofit recreation and then back into municipal recreation. And I've been there since. And so, you know, I've kind of worked my way up from rec leader to camp counselor to coordinator to supervisor. And I am currently the parks administrator for San Joaquin County in the Central Valley here.
Fantastic. And so what was it like what were your first few years like coming into this as a profession? Was it kind of what you thought it was, or what were some of the things that kind of surprised you?
I mean, if you're talking about my first few years when I was like 17 to 20, it was fun. Like, you know, when you're working with youth, and I did a lot of youth development programs, so working with youth and working with even the itty bitties like tots, it was just fun. I thought it was a fun job. I couldn't believe that I was being paid to work with kids and play games and lead. And it just came so naturally to me. And I was so excited to be a part of it and create these experiences for these children. So the fun aspect of the job and the impact that you directly have on children and learning about them was really, it stuck with me for a very long time. It still does to this day.
Yeah. And maybe we can talk a little bit more about this because I don't think it's spoken enough about. But what were some of the leadership opportunities that you got right out of the gates? I know this industry is notorious for saying, "Okay, now, 20-year-old, you're in charge of this a community center or this rec league or something," and then they just walk away and say, "Call if you need help." And next thing you know, you're kind of running a program. Was there any of that going on in those first few years that allowed you to step up as a leader?
There absolutely was. Actually, I talk about it a lot, but the woman who hired me for the city of Downey, Christy McClure Huckabee, she's a mentor of mine. I was young, right? I was 17. I wanted all the hours because I wanted to purchase my first car. I was trying to save money. And so I was constantly going to her as my coordinator and then my supervisor. I was like, hey, I'm available. I can work more. And so one day she handed me this manual. It was like this thick. And it was for a Start Smart program, which was like a taught sports program. And she goes, here, create a program from this. And I was like, I didn't know what to do. I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, read the thing and make a outline of a program that you would create for 6 weeks for this particular age group. And I was stunned. I had never been shoved into that sort of role before. And I was like, okay, I could do it, right? I was a high school student. I was like, I could do this. I can read. I can come up with an outline. I could do this. And I did. And I was able to launch that program for the city. And it was really, it came full circle for me. So that was really exciting. And throughout my career, I just had other opportunities like that. And I think it was because I was hungry for hours, right? And I was putting myself out there like, hey, I'm available to work more. She was able to connect me with other supervisors with the city who needed staff to work other programs. They're like, hey, do you want to work summer camp in the middle of the week? And I was like, sure, I'll do that too. And so I have had a history of just saying yes to a lot of different opportunities. I've always been hungry to learn and do more and kind of level up. Like, what's next? What else can I do? What else can I learn? And so that is probably, one of the big ways that I've learned through my career.
Yeah, and so often when we get our first job, it's more mechanical, like put this widget in this box, answer this phone, file this paper here. You're just doing. But in Parks and Rec, it's like create this program, run this special event, build this playground. Like it's more on the creative side, which is much more challenging, but at the same time, you have to level up your soft skills and your hard skills versus just repetitive tasks. Were there any things like that you got involved with? Any special events or anything in addition to that?
Well, I ran special events. That's traditionally that's the meat of my career. About 19 years and running large scale special events.
Oh, I didn't know. We have to talk about that then.
Yeah. So I'm glad that I'm not doing it anymore. But I loved running special events. I've had some great events and great experiences with the community.
What's your favorite special event that you ran over that? 17? Did you say 17 years or 19 years? I can't.
So by the time I was doing special events, I was probably 18, 19. My favorite event when I was with the city of Downey, probably. It's like a double-edged sword. It was our egg hunt event at the time. It's a complex event because when I was running it, it was one event that took place at 5 different parks on the same day at the same time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Logistically, that sounds fun.
Yeah, it was all hands on deck. It was a team effort, but, being in charge of making sure that all the supplies and all the prizes and all the eggs and all the game activities are at each site ahead of time. It really taught me a lot in paying attention to detail, coordination, and troubleshooting, because there was only one of me who was essentially running all the events with the help of other leaders on the team. And so if another site had an issue, I would get the call. Meanwhile, I'm trying to run. I always took the largest site that we had. It was a lesson. It was fun.
Yeah. Now, who did Ashika have to become during all that? So I'm assuming when you're young, you're like, okay, I better shore up these skills. Were there any like glaring gaps in your skill set that you developed over that time period?
I think you just had to be. I think I had to be flexible. I had to be I had to have a plan. That was the thing, right? Like I live and die by my calendar to this day. Dates just stick to me, and that's probably because of my background in special events. But you just had to have a plan, and you had to have a backup for the plan and a backup for the backup. And I had to learn that at a very young age. And I think it's one of the things that is really essential for leaders to have, right? You have a plan. Everything doesn't always go to plan. So what's your backup plan? And if the backup plan fails, what's your other backup plan? It's important to have those kind of in your mind so that you reduce the amount of stress on the day of when things don't go your way. You're like, okay, I can deal with that. I can deal with that. I have a plan.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely making a plan, having a plan. And that backup plan is critical because usually the first plan just gets crushed once the event starts.
Yes, always.
Yeah,
Always.
That's just the nature of it. So for those not familiar with special events, they might just think that you just show up for the day of, and then you don't have to think about it for another year. Maybe why don't you educate a little bit on that? Is that this is really a year-long planning event for each event?
It
Give a little
is.
101 class on that.
It is. I mean, people that have ran special events know you're planning the next event while you're at the current event. You're seeing what's working and what's not working, and you're making notes for what you can do better and what needs to be eliminated and what needs to be augmented. I always say it's so much work leading up to the event, and then the event starts and you can finally breathe. Like once the event's going and it's live, you can finally breathe, and then you're just troubleshooting. But it's weeks of planning and months of planning, and depending on how complex the event is and what you have going on, like in nonprofit recreation, those events were very complex. I was able to be very creative when I was running special events in nonprofit recreation, including like large scale decorations and different themes and things like that. And so that it takes a team. It takes a team. You can't do it by yourself. If you want to have a successful special event, you need to build a team and pull people together, give them a voice, and give them a piece of the pie so that they have real ownership to lead to a successful event.
Now, are there any disasters, landmines, face plants that you did along the way that you learned from that you'd like to maybe warn others in special events about?
I mean, there's always going to be something that goes wrong, from the volunteer who fainted right in front of me before the event gates opened to the parent who's upset because of whatever reason it is, right? You just have to have a cool, calm demeanor. You have to have that customer service face on. You have to make sure you have all your ducks in a row so that you know how to deal with a medical emergency, or that you have something in your back pocket to make that customer, that community member happy, to try to resolve the situation. And I think keeping a cool and calm head is a big part of that.
Now, are there any key team members, volunteers, maybe people from the police department or fire department that you'd like to speak about, making sure that you have them on your team, that you're in communication with? What are the other kind of either third parties or volunteer staff or people from the Parks and Rec staff that you have to collaborate and work with?
So for me, in my career, when I was doing special events, my number one partners were always the ops team, park ops. If I'm going to do anything on a park, I want to have park ops in from the ground up, from that very first meeting. Right? I want to know what I can do, what I can't do. If I can't do it, what else can I do that will get me to that goal? So working hand in hand with park ops has really been the key to my success with special events. And then third party vendors, yeah, absolutely. You need to have them there. You know, when I was with the city of Downey, our holiday event was Santa got on a fire truck with the fire department, and then we all got on the fire truck, and then we visited all the parks. So that was fun, right? Working with other partners like that, school groups. I'm huge with working with school groups and universities to get volunteers, get the youth engaged in what we do in Parks and Recreation, hopefully to try to attract youth into the profession. Those third-party partnerships are really important to me, and I think they make for a successful event, but then also hopefully they're making an impact on the youth that are helping out and volunteering.
So if and I've never asked somebody to do this, but this might be easy for you.
Uh,
Let's just pick a number. You have 100 people putting on a special event, everybody included that's actually kind of working the event. Would you say about half of those are your facility maintenance crews that are setting up, tearing down day of? And I'm just throwing out numbers here. And then maybe 3 or 4 from like you and the staff. And then the other 50% might be just volunteers that you've somehow got in. What are the kind of percentages, the workforce that's showing up to put on this event?
So when it comes to large scale special events, I would probably say you're having 60-70% of volunteers most of the time. And the amount of park op staff really depends on the agency. It could be, I've ran events where there's an even amount of park op staff and my recreation staff and myself there. There have also been times where it's more rec staff and less op staff. They kind of get you ready ahead of time. They may be there for the morning, a couple people just to sort of help troubleshoot because you've done all the work ahead of time.
Right.
So it really does depend on the agency when it comes to the staffing ratios. But I would say for large scale special events, they're usually very volunteer heavy.
Man, that is such a great school, real world education, being given something like that at a young age. And
yeah.
When I think about what education is and how you up your skill set and having an opportunity like this to really hone your skills, and you're really putting on a real special event. It's not all theory. It's not textbook. This is a live, real time, here we go, special event that's driving a community that's being built, and many times is an economic driver. Did many of your special events have any kind of economic component of it, to where aside from bringing people in and hotels and gas money and stuff like that when they come to your community, any other type of economic drivers around those?
Not really, not then. You're talking about the late 90s. So it was more about just getting families in and having a good time and entertainment and just having them engage and create those memories.
Yeah, and so can we talk a little about the aspect of community building and with how special events plays in that? And I can just speak to my own experience. We centered my personal family reunion around a couple of special events that the city would hold, and we would all kind of come in to attend that and then have something around it. But maybe you can talk about the community building aspect of special events.
Yeah, I'd say when I was with Carmichael Recreation and Park District, our summer concert series, when I was there at least, was every weekend, all summer long, every Saturday and Sunday. I love those summers. But it was, you have the same people who come to those concerts religiously, like weekend after weekend, and they set up. I had people propose at concerts.
Wow.
I've had people come up to me and be like, I'm going to propose. Can I get up on stage? And I'm like, yeah, you can get on stage. You can do that. It's so fun. And you've had people celebrate anniversaries. You've had people that pass away and that maybe liked to come to the concerts. And so they have a little memorial at the next concert. You're really learning a lot about the community, and you learn about their lives, and they learn about you too, right? They come up to you and they talk to you and they're like, oh, how's it going? What else is going on with the district and what's happening? And it's so incredibly special to be a part of those experiences as a park and rec professional, not only because you get to witness it, but also because you've created the space for this type of activity to occur.
I love it. You can't make this stuff up events that happened along the way?
I don't know. I mean, the one with the volunteer fainting was pretty good. It was like 2 minutes she was a young girl, and she was in a key club, and she came up to me to tell me she didn't feel good. And summers here in Sacramento are hot. They're intense. And she walked up to me and she said, I'm not feeling so good. And then she
hit the floor.
She hit the floor. And so, yeah, that was a sobering moment. That was, definitely stuff like that does happen. And that's the one thing that really sticks out in my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, what happened? What motivated the transition from special events to where you are today?
I'm older now, running special events when you're 18 through your 20s into your 30s is a lot. And I have a daughter, she's 10. And as I was mentioning, working every weekend to be there at the special events, they're long days. And don't get me wrong, special events are so rewarding. The high that you get at the end of a special event when an event is going I haven't found a comparable to that yet. But I wanted to be more present at home as well. And I also found, I think a lot of times people don't look at their job satisfaction, right? I think I was in a place where I wasn't that satisfied anymore with what I was doing, and I was getting a little unhappy. And so I really had to reflect internally and decide, I always knew Parks and Rec is the field for me. I'm not going anywhere, right? 22 years. But it was kind of having a conversation with myself. What aspects of your job do you like? What aspects of your job do you not like so much anymore, right? You've done special events for so long. Who's to say that you have to keep doing this? What don't you like? And at that point, I really enjoyed special events and marketing kind of go hand in hand. And I had done marketing for many years, and I realized that I really enjoyed that more admin aspect of my job, the marketing and the relationship building and working with media and things like that. And so I made the decision to start to look for Parks and Rec job openings that would appeal to a more marketing niche. And then I was able to actually make that move and move into administration that way. And then here I am.
Now, let's talk about your marketing background. Was that from when you were young, or were you in some type of graphics design or broadcast journalism or anything, or where did that come from?
All on the fly. From making flyers in Publisher in the 90s to Word and, just do grassroots marketing efforts, making sure your flyers, dropping them off at the school district offices to go out in the kids' backpacks, to, website design and revamping websites. And I learned everything on the job. Like, I never took any HTML classes. I know a little bit of HTML. It was all just learn as you go. And I've always, as I mentioned earlier, I've always been very hungry to learn. So I've always taken opportunities to be a part of projects that gain me more skills, that allow me to learn. So like launching social media, Facebook, Instagram. I remember when I was in nonprofit recreation, we were talking about launching our Facebook and Instagram, and I still didn't have social media. I was not on social media, and I was like, I guess I should get on social media now since I'm going to be, launching it for this agency. And that's really how I learned quite a lot of what I know today.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's such a great place to learn, but also I think there's this misconception that if you want to get into Parks and Rec, you're either going to do sports or maintain a park or somewhere up in leadership, but maybe you can speak about all the other jobs, whether Parks and Rec needs accountants, Parks and Rec needs marketers, graphics designers, maybe speak about, just from a marketing standpoint, the needs of the Parks and Rec industry from a marketing standpoint.
Yeah, this is so, the timing's perfect because I'm actually going to speak at a local college here next week on this very thing. But I think a lot of times students don't realize how robust the profession of Parks and Recreation really is, right? I manage a zoo here. I need zookeepers. I need veterinary staff. I need admin staff. I need animal trainers. I need, and I'm not the only Parks and Rec agency that manages zoos. So, and if you're looking at admin, you need marketing people, you need HR professionals, you need business admin people, you need park planners, urban planning, landscape architects, you need your secretaries, you need your park ops people, your arborists, your your landscape design. It goes on and on. The amount of different opportunities that are available in Parks and Rec, right? You can have somebody who loves yoga and they can come teach yoga at Parks and Rec, right? You can hula hooping, whatever it is. There's sports, there's coaching, there's it's endless. It's so completely endless.
Yeah. And so how did you get this? So tell me about this, I guess, gig you've got at the university. How did that come about? And you said you're going to do a little presentation.
Oh, this is just, I'm going to go, I was invited by a friend of mine to go speak to his class about Parks and Rec. I have some volunteer opportunities coming up, and I was mentioning to him, I said, hey, do your students, because he is an advisor for a couple groups on campus. I said, hey, do they need service hours? I've got some volunteer opportunities. And he said, why don't you come to the classroom and you can talk about your volunteer opportunities, and then you can talk about, careers in Parks and Rec with the class. And I was like, sure, I'm there. I'm Johnny on the spot all the time.
Fantastic. Yes. And we're starting to get a lot more of the word out. We actually made that one video, and I've already had several professors ask my permission to play it. And I'm like, of course, everyone has permission to play that. We're trying to raise the flag and raise awareness around this industry, because, like you said, a lot of students have no idea how huge the Parks and Rec industry is and all the needs that it has that you can find a career in. Okay, so we're at the halfway point. We'll take a little break, and then we'll come back and shift the conversation more to podcasting and creating content in that way. So I'll go ahead and play something for our Youth Sports Mastery show. Now, this is a Thursday show all about youth sports. Our host, Aaron Locks, has been in this industry for 40 years, and he brings some of the best coaching in America. These are like legends of high school and college and even professionals coaching. So it's a great show every Thursday, 1:30 p.m. So we'll play this little promo, and then we'll come right back.
At DPRS Media Co., we don't just create content. We elevate community through storytelling. Now, we're proud to introduce the newest addition to the family. Welcome to Youth Sports Mastery, the podcast where champions are shaped, not just on the field, but in life. Hosted by National Academy of Athletics founder Aaron Locks. Youth Sports Mastery dives deep into how youth sports can empower kids, strengthen communities, and build leaders. From coaching culture to recreation strategy, and from player development to parent impact, every episode brings game-ready insight from the people making it happen. Youth Sports Mastery goes live every Thursday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Only on the Daily Parks and Rec Show, sponsored by National Academy of Athletics and powered by DPRS Media Co. This is where purpose meets play.
Okay, while we're here at the break, I did want to play one more promo for our facilities maintenance show, because these guys don't get thanked enough for the work that they do, not just in cutting the grass, but in setting up and tearing down for every special event and keeping the park systems up and running. So we have a morning show for them that we're building out. I'll play that and then we'll come right back.
Behind every thriving park, every safe playground, every event-ready field, there's a team working before sunrise and long after sunset. This is Facility Maintenance, the only show created for and by the unsung heroes of parks and recreation. Brought to you by DPRS Media Co., where real work gets real recognition. From restrooms to rec centers, HVAC to turf tech, we go beyond the job site into the heart of operations that keep our communities moving. Our mission? To elevate maintenance teams through stories, solutions, and shared experience. Our vision? A world where every facility crew is seen, valued, and fully supported. Each episode features operators, innovators, and leaders, sharing tools, tech, and tactics that make the impossible look easy. Facility maintenance isn't just a job. It's purpose, it's passion, and now it's a show. facility maintenance, where tools meet purpose, where work becomes legacy.
All right. So thank you to all the Parks and Rec professionals out there maintaining our facilities. Couldn't do it without you. Y'all are the unsung heroes of this industry. And also, if you're listening at this point, since we're getting ready to talk about podcasters and content creators, please like and subscribe our YouTube channel and all of our, that is like the lifeblood of content creators, is to really get the word out about the content they're creating. So Ashika, tell us about your journey into podcasting. Where did this idea start from? And I want to hear this whole marvelous adventure that you went on for podcasting.
So it's actually a funny story, but I was actually on vacation in Mexico and I decided that I wanted to go to a fortune teller. And so me and my two friends found this guy who was a fortune teller, and we went to his house. And, you know, I like all that stuff. I like astrology. I'm into all that, you know, spirituality type things. And I remember I didn't say much to him, but we had this intense conversation about what I was doing with my life. And I did have a very creative upbringing. You know, I was really into creativity, and I always wrote a lot. You know, I've written short stories and poems and things like that. And so, you know, he kind of brought that back up. And I remember debriefing with my friends afterwards on the ride back to our, where we were staying. And my best friend at the time says, "You should do a podcast. That's what you should do." And at that point, I had never heard a podcast. I had no idea what it was. And I mean, I knew what it was, but you know, what it took. And we got home in mid-July, and I just put the wheels to the street. And I literally started researching how to start a podcast, what equipment to get, what technology I needed. And within a month, I launched my show. And I was very focused on my show being unique, you know, so it was a lifestyle, relationships, and travel sort of podcast. And that's what it was focused on. It was focused on the first generation experience of South Asians. So, you know, it was a unique lens, and it's been a fun ride.
Yeah. And so how did you pick that content? It was just something because, you know, that's your heritage, or that's where you came from. And are you first generation in the US?
Yes. Yeah. I'm the only one in my family who was born here. So, life imitates art. It was what was going on in my life at the time. You know, I love to travel, and, you know, I was dating a lot then. And, you know, it was just navigating those experiences. And so I decided to, for me, it was very important. You know, you always need to have your why whenever you want to do something. And for me, my why was always that if there was even one person who could listen to my show and feel like somebody understood them and not feel alone, that was good enough for me. Mm-hmm. And so that was my entire purpose of doing the show, was going through these unique experiences and sharing them with an audience, so that hopefully somebody somewhere would get something out of it.
So why is it important to start with why for you? And how has that kind of been your guidepost in tough times when you feel like, what am I doing this for?
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is, right? I mean, I dove in head first. I started a weekly show that ran year round. And that's a lot. It takes a lot of commitment. It takes a lot of dedication. So if you don't have your why when you're up on a Friday night at midnight recording and editing, instead of, you know, maybe hanging out with your friends or getting sleep, you know, it's very easy to say, I don't need to do this. Why am I doing this? Who is this for? And knowing that why and because my why means so much to me, right? It really resonates with me. It's what kept me going, right? To produce a year-round show weekly, it takes a lot of time. I remember there was times where my weekend, essentially my weekend between working full time in Parks and Rec and putting on the show, was Friday nights. That was like my one time to have to myself. And the rest of the weekend I was working.
Yeah. Yeah, and we can definitely attest to that. What you see in the Daily Parks and Rec show, there's 8 of us working full work weeks on this. It's not just a hobby, and it takes a lot of editing. It's not just the camera time. It's there's so much in the front and the back end. Now, is there, what were some of those first steps? Once you're going to do this, you got your why. All right, now what are the first few steps of starting a podcast?
I think for me, it was planning my episodes, right? I'm not a script based person. I like outlines, and that's just how I always speak anytime I have to speak. So it was really planning out, okay, what are you going to do? Are you going to do a weekly show? Are you going to do biweekly? Are you going to do monthly? And decide what your commitment level is going to be. And then when you release a podcast, they always tell you not to release just one show. You want to have at least 1, 2, or 3 episodes out, so that if somebody finds you and they like your voice, they can kind of binge listen a little bit. So I had to decide what were my 3 episodes that I was going to release at once, and plan that out, and then move forward from there and plan out the rest of my season. And the other important thing is, because life imitated art for me on my show, I had to really set my boundaries. What was I going to talk about? What wasn't I going to talk about? I was going to draw the line. Was it going to be, censored? Was I, am I going to allow to, what kind of language am I going to allow myself to speak? You have to have all these conversations and figure it out. For me, it was really important to stay authentic and use my authentic voice. So that's where I ended up. But
yeah. And then what were some of well, first of all, when did you start? So what was the start date? And it's not going on yet. You paused it for a minute, or you cranking?
I have paused it. Yeah. So I started in COVID, like many podcasters did. So I started in August of 2020, and I produced, 1 show a week for a whole year. And then at the end of season 1, I took a week off. I loved it, right? Yeah. I loved it. I took a week off. I couldn't wait to get back to creating and sharing my voice. So then, I did another season 2. I went year round again, once a week for the whole year. And then I think I took 2 weeks off or 3 weeks off. And by the time season 3 launched, I had a little bit of success, right? I was picked up, and the show was syndicated on Ruckus Avenue Radio, which was the #1 internet-based South Asian radio station, which was huge because they had like 8 million listeners monthly. And my show was picked up, and that was really exciting. It was a really great moment for me. And then in 2024 or 2023, I can't even keep it together anymore. Ruckus Avenue Radio was picked up by iHeartRadio, and that was a huge deal. And my show, to go along with that ride, was a huge deal because that was the first South Asian station on a major radio network. Wow. So that was a huge moment. But it's a lot to put together a weekly show for 3 years is a lot. And I decided to step back because I never stopped being a park and rec professional. And so I was volunteering for, I sit on the California Park and Recreation Society State Board, and I've sat on district boards. So I had this volunteer thing going. And at that point I was doing things with Sac State University as well, and trying to, when you stretch yourself too thin.
No, what is that?
Yeah, that's kind of where I was. So I decided to take a step away from the show and take a break. And that's really where I am right now. I don't have the bandwidth currently to take that back on. But it's really nice because I still get messages from people, and they're like, when are you coming back on? Or people that have just found the show. And they're like, we're so, your voice, we like it. We like that you're talking about our stories and what we're doing. So it's still there, and it's ruminating in the back of my mind. But for right now, I don't have the bandwidth to bring it back.
When I started the Bitcoin Daily Show, I had a similar experience when I decided to take a step back, and I was considering leaving the Bitcoin. I'm still in the Bitcoin community, but as far as a content creator, and I was wondering, is anybody even listening to this? I mean, I saw we had a lot of people listening, but I don't know if they're getting from it. When I stopped, it was just a wave of people trying to say, well, when are you coming back? What's going on? And I'm like, well, no, I'm taking a step back. And some of my co-hosts kept creating, because we created somewhat of a Bitcoin media company. But I was blown away by the lives that you impact when you create content, and people were just listening every day. We created content every day for 2 years on Bitcoin of all topics. But certainly there's a lot of people that appreciate it. And that was a big deal for me, kind of like you had said. Now you had said that what are some of the things that we might call the grind, or things that are challenging, off camera or off mic, that you'd kind of like to warn content creators about?
Just sort of have a plan, right? Don't just put out content to put out content. Have it relate back to your show in some way, or your message, or whatever it is. If you don't have a podcast, but whatever your platform is, or whatever you're speaking on, have whatever content you're creating on the side relate back to that. And then the other, sort of challenge is finding time to do everything. And for me, my Parks and Rec background really helped me manage, because I had relationships with the universities. I was able to reach out to my contacts at Sac State and say, hey, I would love to talk to your communications department and offer an internship. And so I set up that partnership really quickly. And I would have never known to do that if I wasn't a Park and Rec professional. And so I was able to set up an internship program with Sac State to have interns help with my show. And so I had 2 interns for 2 seasons, and they were fantastic. And the fact that I could teach them, how to use the software, how to edit, and they helped me create content, come up with ideas, that really helped too, right? You can do it all yourself, but it's nice when you have some help and find a creative way to do that. So it was an unpaid internship. I wasn't offering any payment, just the experience. And it was great. I mean, my first intern, I just attended her wedding a few months ago.
Wow.
It developed a friendship, right? It's fantastic.
Yeah. And I'm in the process of getting an internship program for us as well. And thanks to my exposure to Parks and Rec and the Young Professionals Network and the encouragement from that, because Parks and Rec really does a great job of including students and interns to basically provide the value that they provide. Anything you can say about working with those interns and getting in touch with them for those that may want to, start to use an internship program just at the Parks and Rec level, or any level for that matter?
Yeah, I would say create a really good internship description of what you want, so that students know exactly what they're getting into. And for me, I always did face-to-face interviews. I'd pick a Starbucks and host all my interviews there all day long to make sure that I had the right fit. Because for me, I recorded my show in my home. So these people, whoever the intern was going to be in my home at my real address, around my kid, right? You want to make sure that you know who's coming into your home or into your space, and who you're working with, and if they're going to be a right fit. And just be really clear on the deliverables, on what you can provide the student, what they're going to learn by working with you, and make sure that you're actually delivering what you promised. Because they are using this for credits, for their education, towards their degree. And so if you're going to promise them, hey, you're going to learn how to use editing software, make sure that you're actually teaching them how to use editing software. Make sure you're actually following through on your promises, so that it's a mutually beneficial internship, and that the university wants to continue to work with you.
And how long did these internships last? Just 1 semester or 2 semesters, or?
Yeah, so my first intern, she interned with me for 2 semesters, and then my second interned for 1 semester.
And what kind of weekly commitment was it for them?
It was about 10 to 12 hours a week. So yeah, really, when I was saying I only had Friday nights off, I only had Friday nights off. So they could come in the evenings after work once I got home from like 6 to 8 or 6 to 9, and we would work. And then on the weekends, we would put in a full 8-hour day.
Wow. And so what kind of time commitment was this for you during that time?
The same. I mean, it was the same, even more so. Sometimes I think people think, oh, with an intern, I'm going to have to pause and teach them how to do things, and I just can do it quicker by myself. But that's the wrong way to look at it, in my opinion, right? Like you're teaching someone something that they can use in the future, and then in the end, your life is going to be so much easier because then your bandwidth increases. Because I could have my intern with my first intern, because she was with me for 2 semesters, I could record an episode and hand it off to her for her to edit and take out all my ums that I like to throw in every so often, right. And just edit the bloopers out and things like that. And it also helped because for content, right? I used to love to also post like bloopers from recording on my socials, like on Instagram and TikTok. And so to have another set of ears, listen to something and say, oh, wait, that's actually funny. We should edit that and keep it as a blooper to use later. It's collaboration. It makes things better.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I think another thing that people don't realize, that when you have an intern, yes, they come and they go, but all the processes of bringing them in are left behind. And so you get more efficient at onboarding the second one, and you're not having to build all the protocols and systems for them. They can just slide right in, and they might have to learn, but you're not having to figure out how to teach them and what you're going to have them do. And so those processes will develop with each internship, which I'm looking forward to developing all those. And I have that natural fear that you just mentioned of, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to sit here and teach the entire time, but just got to get over it. And
you got to get over it. You show them once, you show them twice, watch them, let them go. And then just save your work. Save your raw work in case. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. You still got to come back behind and clean up a little bit. A lot of these guys, I had this conversation the other day that let's just say you are just a company looking for a 40-hour-a-week person that's going to help create content and build social media platforms and distribute stuff. Are you really going to find somebody that has expertise in the 40 and 50-year-old demographic? Because these are mostly done by the younger crowd. You find some of the most experienced and most capable from that 20-year-old crowd in this one, marketing, content creation industry.
Oh yeah, one of my interns' roles was, hey, spend an hour, find what TikTok trends are trending right now, and if you think we can recreate them and relate them back to the show. It's perfect for them.
Yeah. Yeah. And then a lot of these shorts is how we really get the word out. And they are pretty much professionals at the Instagram, the reels, the shorts, that kind of stuff. This is kind of where they spend their time socially. So they get to do that professionally. They're bringing in all this other skill set they have that they just casually do it. And that really is a skill set. And if you've never built a short or tried to make something that goes viral, they know how to do it. And so bringing them on their team really helps out a lot.
Absolutely.
So now, are you planning on doing anything in the marketing or podcasting realm in Parks and Recreation, or are you going to crank the other show back up eventually, or what's the plan?
I don't think I would do anything in Parks and Rec. I built a brand around my show already, and if anything, I would go back to that. It's so funny because last year around Diwali, which is a South Asian holiday, I was like, I'm ready to get back to the show, and I posted a little teaser on Instagram, saying, big news coming, and that news has still not came.
Right.
But I would probably re-enter that space if I were to get back to podcasting, because I do, like you said, you develop a following, and people do reach out, and people do miss it, and I love to get those messages when people are asking me, like, are you ever going to get back to doing this? And I would go back to that authentic show.
Yeah. Now maybe you can speak about how when we think about creating art and how important it is to express yourself artistically, a lot of times we think of painting or maybe music and stuff, but a podcast is a form of art that, if your gift is to speak and to create in that way and to storytell and to message, maybe describe the art form of podcasting and then how important it is to you to have that outlet to express yourself in that way.
I think it's just figuring out, like you said, like, is there a story to be told? And I feel I am a storyteller, right? I've got a certain sense of humor, a certain way that I speak. And I just think, is there a story to be told? Are you willing to tell it? And are you willing to tell it authentically? Because if you're not willing to tell it authentically, people will hear that right away. So it is, it's kind of that. I don't know. It's a very layered question, Greg.
Well, I tell you, if you don't, let me see. It would be like me describing what it's like to have a child, to give birth to a child.
Yeah.
I can't be authentic about that. Maybe my wife could. And so it's really that authentic part is so hard to hide inside speaking. It's almost like they can smoke you out if you're faking it.
Correct. And then it's also like, sure, you may have a story to tell, right? I could tell a story about how I did my laundry last night, right? But is it benefiting? What is the point of telling this story? Where is it going? Is there a benefit, right? Like again, it goes back to my why. My whole why was, I'm going to tell a story that I think another South Asian, first generation South Asian may relate to, and that can help them through this process. I'm going to tell a story about my travels to Fiji because I think somebody else may be going to Fiji and want to know where all the hot spots are and where to go and where not to go. So is there a point of the story, or are you just speaking to speak because you like the sound of your voice?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So maybe you can help critique us a little, because I came from the vendor side and then I kind of retired because of Bitcoin. And now, but I fell in love with storytelling, and I saw an industry that just needed help creating the infrastructure so that they would have a platform to tell their story. So that's been how I've approached it. And sometimes I have this kind of imposter syndrome, like I've never worked it. Well, actually I did work in Parks and Rec. I cut the grass. It was my only job I've ever had in my life. So I have some tie in there, but what do you think we can do better to help the Parks and Rec industry tell their story?
I think what you're doing now is pretty good. I think continuing to reach out to Park and Rec professionals. I love that you have the youth network.
Yeah.
I think that's really important, right? Park and recreation professionals know that we need to attract the next generation of professionals into our profession, and highlighting those voices of young professionals and trying to attract them into the field is so important. And you guys have been really good. I mean, just the way we connected at just reaching out and saying, hey, like this, you seem like you have a unique voice and something to say. Are you willing to do this? I think the more unique voices you get on your show that can talk about their experiences and how they got to where they got in their careers, it is going to be monumental, because the leadership pathway is not, it's not linear, and it's not all, it's not on one trajectory. It's a squiggly mess of how people get to be a leader. And so the more unique voices that you can amplify so that people can see, there's different ways to become a leader, the better it will be.
Yeah. And that really is how we've approached it. We're kind of like the, I guess the DJ or maybe the camera guy you would hire to document your wedding so that you can kind of tell the story of it. But they're the professionals that know how to capture the right moment and edit it just right. And that's kind of where we kind of position ourselves. Okay, so we're coming towards the end here. A couple of traditions that we have are, if you are sitting in front of a classroom of undecideds or young professionals that really don't know what they want to do with the rest of their life, what is your sales pitch / testimony to the industry of Parks and Rec of why they should consider this as a career path?
It's fun, it's impactful, and it's rewarding. I would build on those three sort of subjects. It's the impact and the reward from working for your community and creating experiences is just, you're not going to beat that.
Oh, I love it. Okay. So the other one we have, this comes from China Grove, North Carolina, Jill Sellers. She was our episode 240. She left a question for you, and then you'll have to leave a question for our next guest.
Oh.
But the one is, what is something that you want to learn about to broaden your scope in your career?
Oh, planning, 100%.
Starting and ending with planning.
Yeah. Different kind of planning, right? I'm talking about park planning. I definitely need to brush up more on park planning.
Yeah. And so how has that changed? Because literally you said from day one, you got to have a plan. You got to have a backup plan. And you're still even, well into your career, seeing how important planning is. So what is your version of that right now, real time, of still wanting to develop the planning part of your?
Well, no, I'm talking actually about like a park planner, like.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like that sort of planning. Like that's when you're looking at urban planning, park planning for future development, that's really what I need to brush up on a little bit more. And I'm learning tons, especially in this role, and in my previous role, I learned a lot about that sort of planning aspect of parks and recreation. But that's really what I need to brush up on a little more.
Yeah. So actually, I'm glad you mentioned that, because one of the shows that we're cooking up in the back, and we've actually got a couple of strategic partners, is on master planning and project planning, because it is a huge chunk of what you do in Parks and Rec that it kind of surprises you that this is one of the hats you wear. And this can, creating a master plan is many times like a 1 year, $250,000. It's not a small lift. And then it guides you for the next 10 years as to who you are, where you want to go as a park system. So that is definitely a skill set that is important in Parks and Recreation.
Yeah, we're doing that right now. Actually, we're in the middle of our master plan RFP review right now.
Well, hopefully we will have a weekly show soon, probably within the next, give us about 60 more days, but we would like to have a weekly show on master planning and project planning for Parks and Recreation, because we've interviewed people that this is 100% of what they do. It's the one hat they wear in Parks and Recreation. There's really a lot of wisdom to be shared on having a good master plan and managing projects that come through your Parks and Rec departments. Okay, so what question would you like to leave for our next guest?
Oh, I don't know. I guess I would want to know their high and low.
What is your high and low throughout your career in Parks and Rec?
So far, what's been your high and what's your low?
What is your answer to that question?
I think I'm living my high right now. I'm really excited for my role here with San Joaquin County, and and what I can do here, and what the team here is working on, and moving the county park system forward. I'm really excited about that, and I'm excited. I recently joined the Regional Advisory Council for the Trust for Public Land for equitable access for parks in the Central Valley. It's just I'm at a really good place right now where I am. So this is kind of my high right now. My low, I think, was somewhat what we started talking about in the show, where I was, a professional in the field, but no longer, quite happy with what I was doing. And so realizing that I didn't need to change my career completely, but just, realize what I wanted to pursue in Parks and Recreation, and making that change.
Wow, fantastic. Well, I'm so glad, and we'll have to have you back and get an update on your career as it develops, seeing if you've gotten any better at master planning. Maybe we can have you on that show whenever we launch it.
Absolutely.
But I really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing your life journey and all your podcasting adventures with us.
Thank you so much. It's been a blast.
Yeah. Well, have a great rest of the week, and hopefully we'll see you in California. What's it, like February of next year or late January?
It's in March. Yeah, I'll see you in Long Beach at the CPRS conference.
We will be there.
Yay!
All right. Take care. Thank you for coming today.
Bye.
Bye. All right. Another great show guest. Ashika is, well, first of all, fellow podcaster. Shout out to all of the podcasters of the world, especially those that are choosing to make content in Parks and Rec. Very small group of content creators for Parks and Rec, but we're going to change that. By the way, if you have a podcast in Parks and Rec and you need help producing it, or you just need advice, it is something I'm personally willing to just help out free of charge, just to tell you about the tools that we use and maybe even help you find some sponsors or something like that, just to encourage you to keep doing it. Because this is an industry that, though it's a massive industry, 200 and close to $250 billion a year they spend in Parks and Rec, and trillions with a T in real estate that the collective community of Parks and Recreation is managing nationwide, from every green space to every zoo or mini zoos, to football fields, basketball fields, community centers, aquatic centers. It is a huge real estate portfolio that our maintenance teams are managing, keeping clean, to bring the value of Parks and Rec to their local community and build communities through special events and everything else you could possibly imagine. Even things like urban forestry, managing all of our public trees on public property, that all falls under Parks and Recreation, and something that we're really starting to work on. So we did create, and I'll have this up for tomorrow, but go into our YouTube channel. We created a 2-minute promo for why Parks and Rec is an essential service. And this really is, especially during crisis moments, Parks and Recreation is where it's kind of like the rally point during a crisis that first responders, I guess, rally to. And so imagine if a big tornado or hurricane or fire or any kind of natural disaster happens to a community, where is FEMA going to headquarter out of? Where are the police department going to, and the fire department, and where's the community going to meet up and hand out food and hand out water and help people to get back on their feet? And it is basically the Parks and Rec departments has the staff, has the facilities to get the city, get the community, get the county back on their feet. And this is not something that you would consider first on the chopping blocks when times get tough. If anything, this is one of the emergency responding components of every community, and we want to help tell that story. So we created an essential service. It was why Parks and Rec is an essential service promo. Again, like all of our stuff, that's not copyrighted. You're welcome to show this at any committee meeting, any council meeting, to any elected official, when you're fighting hard for those dollars to maintain the facilities and to invest in your Parks and Rec. It's not just about the green space and all the programming and the special events, but in a time of crisis, Parks and Recreation is where you recover from. They have the facilities, they have the staff to actually help the community get back on their feet. And I can bring on hundreds, if not thousands, of Parks and Rec professionals that have actually lived this real time, and when they've had a massive, and I personally lived it when Hurricane Katrina hit the New Orleans, Baton Rouge, pretty much the Gulf South area. It was the Parks and Rec departments that I'll never forget. We had helicopters landing in soccer fields where they were picking people up from New Orleans, flying to Baton Rouge, dropping them off at Breck Park in soccer fields, and then going back and rescue more people. And then the Parks and Rec department was just busting at the seams running these operations during that crisis of Katrina. So, and there's countless stories like that. So we want to help kind of create that story and create a little promo for that, so that hopefully we can do our part in pulling Parks and Rec squarely into an essential service that does not need to be cut. All right. So a couple of announcements. We are, I think, 8 days away from NRPA. We'll be flying out, I think, Sunday-ish to get out there. We've got a full week ahead of us. Everybody, hopefully getting your plans squared away. Hopefully everybody travels safely. But we will be doing, I think, 30 to 40 shows live from NRPA. Got a lot of great people coming on, just doing 15, 20-minute videos, checking in on everybody, seeing what they're up to, how they're enjoying the convention, and just highlighting the hard work that NRPA does every year. If you see anybody with NRPA, please thank them, because this is if you've never put on a massive event like they're doing each year, trying to coordinate all the speakers and everybody coming in, and the convention center and the hotels and all that stuff, it is chaos. And they do this year in and year out. I've never been to an NRPA national event and not just been blown away by how well run it is. And I know if you're running it, you might not think it's well run because you're in the chaos of it. But from the outside looking in, y'all are doing a great job. Keep it up. And it's one of the best organizations that helps lift up Parks and Rec professionals and has been doing it for decades. So my hat's off to everybody that's working hard at NRPA. And you're doing a great job. And I'll do my best with our little media company to kind of highlight as much as I can the work that y'all are doing and encourage people to attend it if they can, get out to one at some point in your life. And then also a lot of the state events have an annual event that's a much smaller version of NRPA, but definitely can serve people who maybe can't make it out to Orlando like this year, but could maybe attend a local event. They do a great job as well. All right, so this is Craig LeBlanc signing off for the Daily Parks and Rec Show. We will see y'all here again tomorrow, and y'all take care. Have a great week. Love you guys. Thanks. Bye.
Are you a vendor, brand, or service provider ready to connect with the heartbeat of local communities? At DPRS Media Co., we tell the stories shaping parks and recreation across America. Through podcasts, live streams, videos, and newsletters, we reach frontline leaders, city directors, and decision makers every single week. From youth sports and facilities to programming and policy, our audience is your audience. Sponsoring or partnering with DPRS Media Co. puts your brand in front of the professionals who build, budget, and buy for their communities. Launching a new product, growing your presence in public spaces, targeting cities, counties, or departments, DPRS is your trusted media partner. Whether you're in software, turf, aquatics, robotics, smart cities, or special events, partnering with DPRS puts your brand in the story. With commercials, interviews, social campaigns, newsletters, and live shows, we're your media team. Partner with us and grow your impact in the $200 billion parks and rec industry. DPRS Media Co. Stories that move parks and rec forward. Your audience is here. Let's meet them.